Hello, starting just slightly late this evening, so apologies if you've been waiting. Um, Welcome to this mindfulness practice session. Um, yes, so tonight's plan is to do a longer practice, but you have the option to um, do to step out of the practice at a certain point. So I'm going to use interval bells after the first 15 minutes. I'm going to use some interval bells at every 5 minutes so that you can choose to stop there if you like. But the invitation is to just kind of extend your practice a little bit. You might have got into the pattern of um, practicing for a certain length of time, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it might be. So if you have the time tonight, you might not have. You could, if you like, see if you can take yourself just a little bit longer with the practice. As I say, stretch yourself a little bit in the practice. So yeah, and I got this sort of idea from a video I was watching of another mindfulness meditation teacher who was talking about this very thing. And I mean, they were talking about very long periods of meditation and going a bit further, but we don't have to be that ambitious. What I thought I'd do is it's really the sitting practice that we do on the MBSR course. Um, you might remember the different stages of that. So as I say, I'll ring the bells for the different stages. Um, but it might not be you may not really have done that whole practice since doing the course. Of course you might have on occasion, but so it's an opportunity as well to kind of revisit that. So now maybe you're sort of thinking, oh, what should I do? You might have decided, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. And so when you set your intention to do that, kind of really maybe forming the resolve to stick with that, really, you're going to sit through to the end. But you might be a bit unsure and just feel like after the first 15 minutes that you'd like to take it 5 minutes at a time, and that's fine. So you can do it with either of those two approaches, and see how it goes. But perhaps noticing if that kind of uncertainty maybe about how long you're going to sit for is stirring up a lot of thinking and wondering, and you might feel that that's not such a great aspect of practicing like this. So just maybe again, sort of bearing in mind now that if that arises, that you can perhaps deliberately set that to one side, letting it go as we do with our thinking anyway, and just maybe seeing the whole thing as a kind of a play and an experiment tonight with the practice. Obviously, if you haven't done the MBSR course and you're only really used to doing quite short practices, do feel free to stop at any point. Maybe after if you're only used to really, if you've only ever done quite short practices of 10, 15 or 20 minutes, you might only want to extend yourself a little bit, maybe into 25 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever is relevant for you. Anyway, I hope that is all fairly clear. So we'll begin in a moment. So we're looking at if you do the whole practice at approximately 30 minutes of sitting. So you might recall on the actual course, in fact, the CD track is actually about 45 minutes long, so it's not quite as long as that. Okay, let's begin. So, taking your seat, bringing your attention into your body as you set up your posture for this practice. So yes, just beginning to notice how you are in your body right now. If you're sitting on a chair, having your feet flat on the ground, legs uncrossed, perhaps having your buttocks shifted a little forward in the seat so you can bring your spine and your back away from the back of the chair so that you're self-supporting if that's right for your body. So having a posture of alertness. Same is true if we're sitting on cushions or a stool. We can allow our spine to naturally be drawn upwards. You can always imagine that you've got a thread drawn up through the spine, out through the top of the head, and gently pulling the crown of your head towards the sky, towards the ceiling. Letting the shoulders release and let go. Softening around the eyes, around the jaw, the mouth, the nose, the forehead, and in the front of the upper body as well, in the chest, the heart area, the belly. Placing the hands wherever is comfortable, folded in your lap or on the thighs. Ensuring your weight is evenly balanced, not too far forward, not too far back, not skewed to one side. And perhaps in this potentially longer practice, reminding ourselves that this is a gift of time for ourselves to be with our own experience in a simple, open way. Letting go of all our agendas, our to-do lists, and the kind of busyness of the day. Perhaps letting all that settle like the silt that's been stirred up in the pond, and we just let the water become calm and the grains and particles of silt settle back down on the bottom of the pond again. A gradual process of arriving. And now feeling our way into the contact of the body with the floor, through the feet, through perhaps the lower legs as well if we're kneeling or cross-legged on the floor. Feeling the contacts with the cushion or stool or chair, through the buttocks and the backs of the thighs. Anchoring our body through those points of contact. Sitting like a mountain. And aware too of the space around us, even with our eyes closed. Aware of the space in front, behind, to the sides, above and below. Now becoming aware of our breathing, the phenomenon of breathing happening in our body right now. Moving in to the breath with our awareness, our attention, placing it at the forefront. Staying with the procession of each breath inwards from the nostrils or the mouth, all the way down on its journey into the lungs. And as the lungs expand, the diaphragm shifts down, the belly expands, the ribs expand. And then there's the pause before the the out breath begins. And the diaphragm moves back up, the lungs empty out, the stomach contracts and the ribs fold back down again. And we can follow the breath out, all the way out, through the nostrils or the mouth. Just being with the rhythm, the sensations, the texture, and motion of the breath. All the way in and all the way out. Just lightly observing and feeling the breath. Being curious and interested in the breath, without trying to alter its rhythm or flow. Relaxing around our awareness of the breath. And now, if it feels okay, taking your awareness, your one-pointed attention to a part of the breath, the breathing process in the body. Maybe where you feel it most strongly today. Or just where your curiosity takes you. So just moving in closer to that area, being with the sensations. Right there. Might be a feeling of coolness in the nostrils and warmth as the breath emerges again on the out breath. It might be the sort of texture of the breath, the throat, or the nostrils. Or it might be just that Sense that sensation of expansion and deflation in the ribs, the belly, the chest. So looking at the breath in slightly finer detail in your chosen area. And when the mind wanders, which it almost inevitably will have done perhaps several times already, just folding that into the practice. It's just natural for our minds to wander, so we can see where our mind went to. And without making too much of a fuss of that, we can just bring our attention back to the breath. Not a problem, not a sign that the practice is going wrong in any way. It's part of it, part and parcel of it. So now, letting awareness of the breath just slightly shift into the background as you expand your awareness around the breath to the whole body, the breathing body. Maybe aware of the whole of the front of the upper body and the back, shoulders, arms, neck, throat and head. Lower body, the hips, pelvis, buttocks, and the legs, and the feet, and the arms and the hands. Just scanning your awareness around the body, seeing what's here, what sensations are play now in your body. As the in-breath ripples through your awareness of your body, and the out-breath too. Different patterns, different types of sensation. Tingling, pulsing, aches, pains. Movement, coolness, warmth. The contact of one part of the body upon another, or with the floor, or what you're sitting on. Contact of clothing and the air with the skin. Just allowing your awareness to roam around all these different sensations. Sometimes holding them all in one wider arc of awareness. Sometimes turning the beam of your attention in one area or another of sensation. So in a few moments we'll be coming to the first interval, the first bow. So resting in awareness of your body and your breath. Preparing to either end the practice here or to come along with me onto the next stage. Simply sitting, simply breathing, and being aware of sitting and breathing. So now we move into a further period of exploring body sensations. But now choosing different patterns of sensations to move closer towards, to investigate in more detail. So maybe there's some sensation that's featuring more prominently in your experience right now. It might be a pleasant sensation, maybe some tingling or warmth or ease. Or it might be a more uncomfortable sensation, such as tension or achiness. So just taking your awareness up to one of those patterns of sensation, and just as we did with the breath, just being with it, perhaps unpeeling a few layers of the sensation, going a bit deeper into it with your attention. What exactly is it like, this sensation that you're experiencing right now? So its qualities. Feeling those directly if we can. Not so much thinking about them, although that may be present. It's just being more receptive and open to experiencing those sensations. We might notice as we sit with the sensation that there are subtler micro changes going on all the time in the pattern of that sensation that we can attend to when we go in a bit closer. Maybe now stronger and now fainter. Maybe it's an itch you're exploring, or a sense of weight and pressure, or something on the skin. Or a sensation that feels deeper within the body. Breathing into any uncomfortable sensations, at the same time as perhaps being willing to just turn towards them, holding them in awareness. And you can always come back to the breath at any time to steady and refocus your focus of attention. As we move towards the end of this section of the practice and the next bell. So if we're continuing to sit, resting for a few moments just in the body, the breath, openly, nowhere to go, no particular goal except to be present here right now. And shifting our attention up towards our ears, tuning into the sensitivity of our ears to sounds that might have been in the background of your awareness up until now. We can allow our attention to receive those sounds, not searching for them, but just allowing them to arrive in our awareness. Sounds in the body of breathing, rustling, gurgling perhaps in the tummy, maybe other sounds going on. Sounds in the room where you're sitting. Sounds in other parts of the house or the flats or in the neighbourhood outside. It may be very quiet. There may be quite a lot going on in terms of sound. Just seeing if we can be curious and interested in the sounds as they are, as an experience being received in our field of awareness. Arriving in our awareness. Perhaps doing a little play, a little dance before they gradually disappear or suddenly stop. Maybe it's a sound that keeps coming and going. Slightly changing and modulating. As best we can, just being with the experience of the qualities of that sound. Perhaps noticing the mind judging and labeling, even beginning to create stories around the sounds. Each time we notice that's happening, we can let go of that story, that judgment, come back to the more direct sensing of the sound. And also, if we can, perhaps Sensing into the silence that is the ground out of which all the sound emerges, into which it subsides again. And now, coming to the end of this section of the practice, resting in our fuller, wider awareness now, as we now move into becoming aware of our thoughts, our thinking patterns. This whole quite amazing, mysterious phenomenon of thinking. Seeing if we can notice a thought forming and arising and developing and then fading without getting caught up in that thought. And noticing when we do get caught up in that thought. And when we do, letting it go, coming back to just watching thoughts, or coming back to the breath. Which is always available to you as a kind of tethering point for your practice. Perhaps seeing thoughts as like the clouds in the sky. Sometimes they seem to fill up the whole of the sky, like grey clouds, like a thick blanket of grey cloud. But then there might be other times when the thoughts are like little puffy clouds that just appear in the blue sky, and there's more spaciousness or access or feeling of spaciousness. But really the spaciousness is always there, even when our minds are at their most busy. You could also see a thought as like a bus coming along. You're waiting at the bus stop, watching the bus arrive. And you can choose whether to get on that bus or to stay at the bus stop. And if you do unintentionally get on the bus, as soon as you realise that's happened, you can just get off at the next point, which is the moment when you realise that your mind has wandered. So seeing thoughts as thoughts, a bit like sounds, arriving in our awareness, arising, lingering, developing, changing, and eventually fading. Some are just like blips, short, random thoughts. Other ones are quite long and complicated, Perhaps we're more likely to get caught up in those ones. So even if that happens, that's okay. We're just practicing stepping back from thoughts and also noticing any feelings and emotions that are in our awareness right now. As we come to the end of this stage of practice, and move on into the final stage. So just staying with those emotions now, those feelings that we began to tune into, those feelings and emotions that often go hand in hand with our thoughts, but which we tend to experience as body sensations or some kind of aliveness of something in the body, something in our experience. Just noticing what feelings are here for you now, and whether those feelings are ones that you quite like being there, maybe any sense of ease or contentment or peacefulness. Or there might be sensations that you wish weren't there. Tiredness, dullness, restlessness, anxiety. These are the feelings that we want to push away. Maybe there's a bit of both going on in your experience. Just noticing that push and pull, and the tendency to form judgments about our experience, our feelings. So if we can just come back to the feeling itself, experiencing that, this very vibrant, alive quality of feelings in the body. And from there, now just letting go of any particular aim or focus in your practice. And just sitting, simply being with whatever is arising moment by moment. Maybe now there's awareness of a breath, an in-breath. Sensation of touch or coolness or warmth. Something niggly. And a thought dancing through. A feeling arising. A sudden sound. Just letting your awareness receive what's arising right now in this moment. And now this moment. Coming back to the breath or the sensations in the body at any time you need to come back to your more mountain-like stability in the practice. And with the last bell, resting in the sound of the bell. And if you've arrived at this point together with me, perhaps just allowing yourself a bit of self-appreciation for staying the course, for practicing that kind of patience and willingness to stretch ourselves a little beyond our usual limits, and knowing that that will repay you in your practice if you do this from time to time. So opening your eyes when you're ready, and yeah, just taking whatever amount of time you need to begin to move back into interacting with others and getting on with whatever else you need to do tonight. Thanks very much for joining me in the practice, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you again soon. There is the actual live drop-in next Monday evening, so perhaps I'll see some of you there, and then I'll keep you posted about when the next live stream will be as well. So go well this week, and see you soon. Good night.